Hi everybody, welcome to Shell Lectures. So today we'll be dealing with an NCERT topic, Physics Class 11, Chapter number 2, Units and Measurements. Units and measurements. So, if I have to weigh my body's mass, okay, I have to know what my body's mass is. What should I do? So I have to weigh my body's mass, and that will be a number along with a factor, an universally accepted factor, and that's what is known as a unit. Okay, it's an internationally accepted a standard factor which is used to measure and represent physical quantities. Okay, for example, if we have for length, the unit which we have is meter. So for all the physical quantities we are having specific units, but the physical quantities are very wide, whereas the units are not as wide as physical quantities, because a lot of physical quantities are having the same unit. Okay, or we can derive units from basic units. We can derive the units for several physical quantities. So the physical quantities are very large in number, but the units are not as large as the physical quantities. Okay, so the units in general are of three types. The first thing is fundamental units. They are only of two types, I'm sorry. Fundamental units is one type, and the next type is derived units. So fundamental units, the word itself says, they are the units of fundamental physical quantities. That is the basic physical quantities. The units of the basic physical quantities are known as fundamental units. And those units which are derived from the fundamental units are said to be derived units. Okay, so fundamental units are basic units, and the units which are derived from them are said to be derived units. So the fundamental units are 7 in number. They are 7 in number. So first let us write the physical quantities, and then we will write the fundamental units. So the fundamental units are there for the physical quantities like length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, and luminous intensity. So what's a unit of length? Meter. And what's a unit of mass? Kilogram. Time second. Electric current ampere. Temperature Kelvin. Amount of substance moles. That is B represented as moles. And luminous intensity candela. Okay, so length, the SI unit, that is SI. We are in present scenario, the system of units which we are practicing is SI, that is International System of Units. Okay, in that system only we are using, but in earlier times people used CGS. Okay, it is centimeter, gram, second mode of units, and then they also used MKS, that is meter, kilogram, second. So centimeter, gram, second, meter, kilogram, second, and also one more system of units which they used was foot, pound, second. Okay, but these three are not very much in use nowadays. We are only using SI, that is International System of Units nowadays, to specify the units of physical quantities. In that regard, length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, luminous intensity have these physical units, and along with this we also have two more physical units which have to be learned, physical quantities which have to be learned. They are plane angle and solid angle. So plane angle. So what's that? If we take a plane like okay, if I am taking plane angle, what is this? This is the arc. This may be the circle. Okay, this may be the circle, and this is the arc of the circle. So if we take this arc length as S, okay, we are taking it as S, and then if we take the radius as R, we are going to take the arc length as S and the radius as R, then this will be the plane angle. Okay, this will be the plane angle, and it is represented by the angle symbol theta. So theta's formula is arc length by radius. So what is that? What is arc length here? S by R. Okay, so this is for plane angle, whereas for solid angle, let us take a solid like this. So this is the area which is being intercepted or which is being enclosed. So let us take this as dA, very small area. Let us take it as dA, like only this much. If you are taking into account, so that's dA, and then we have the radius that is that will be this. So this is the one. So this is the radius. So we will be having solid angle. The symbol is omega. Omega is equal to area by square of the radius. Area by square of the radius. So this is plane angle, and that is solid angle. Okay. So the unit for plane angle is radian. It's radian, and it's written as RAD, and this is steradian. The unit for solid angle is the SI unit for solid angle is steradian, and it is written as SR. Okay, so this is how we represent phase angle and solid angle are the other two physical quantities apart from the ones which we learned in the previous thing. Okay. So these are the fundamental units. Okay, 7 plus 2. So these are the fundamental units. And now what are derived units? Derived units are nothing but the ones which are derived. For example, if I take area, what's area? That's meter square. Okay, there is a unit of area as meter square. Already we have meter for length. So it's a fundamental quantity, and we are just multiplying it, and we are deriving a new physical quantity for area. So that's why it's known as derived physical quantity or derived physical unit. Okay, so this is also for momentum. If you take it for momentum, what's the formula for momentum? mv, right? So mv is kg for m. Velocity is meter per second because it is displacement by time. Okay, so displacement is in meter and time is in second. So meter second inverse is for velocity. So if this is meter second inverse, and then we have another one thing also, that is m. Okay, so we write kg, then we write m s inverse. So these all are the units, fundamental units. These all are fundamental units. Am I right? So either by adding or doing some kind of an operation with the fundamental units, we derive the derived units. Okay, so that's what is known as derived units. Okay, now measurement of length. How do we measure length? It's very obvious. We measure length by using a meter scale, of course. We measure length by using a meter scale for 10 cube to 10 power minus 2. 10 cube to 10 power minus 2 meters, we use a meter scale to measure the distance. But what if the thing is little bit, 10 square to 10 power minus 3. Okay, so what if the distance is very much lesser? For instance, 10 power minus 4. What do? We use a vernier caliper. Vernier caliper, which is used to measure small thickness or small distances. Okay, so this is how we measure for 10 power minus 4. What for 10 power minus 5? We use screw gauge. And we also use spirometer. So these are the instruments which we can use for these kind of things. But what do we do for very large distances and very small distances, the two extremes? That's what are the major topics. Okay, so this is just in general. Meter scale is used to measure distances from ranging from 10 square to 10 power minus 3 meter, and 10 power minus 4, if it goes to 10 power minus 4, we'll have to use a vernier caliper, and if it's 10 power minus 5, we'll have to use a screw gauge or a spirometer. Okay, so now how do we measure very large distances, say the distance between the star and a planet? Okay, very large distances. So this is a star. Let us consider this to be S. Okay, so this is the star. So if we go down, so this is the Earth, we are viewing it from 2 points. Okay, so we are viewing it from two observatories. There is one is A, I am viewing it like this, and the other is B. Okay, so I am viewing it from 2 points, and this method is known as parallax method. So what is parallax? That we have to know first. Parallax. For example, I am seeing my finger, I am closing my left eye, and I am just viewing it with my right eye. and then I am closing my right eye and viewing it with the left eye. So there is a kind of displacement that has taken place. Am I right? When you close the left eye, it will be in one position, and when you close the right eye, it will be in the other position. So this kind of a movement, this kind of a displacement in its position is termed as parallax, and the distance thus formed is known as basis. And in this case, which I did with my finger, the basis is nothing but the distance between the eyes. Okay, so this is what is known as parallax. So this is what we are going to use to predict the large distances, to measure the large distances, say from a star to Earth. Okay, so we are doing it from 2 points. You know why? It's only because it's a parallax method. Okay, so I am doing it with 2 points, and the distance between the 2 points and the star will be d. So the distance between the 2 points and the star will be d, and then the distance between the 2 points will be b. Okay. So this will be b, and this will be d, and this will be d. So this is the parallax angle, theta. This is the parallax angle, that is nothing but the angle which is subtended by both of the things which are going up. And as the star is very far away from the Earth, you just imagine it will be going like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. So the angle is going to be very small. Am I right? Theta is going to be very small. So we know that tan theta, if we are considering tan theta and theta is very small, it's very small, then we can say that it's approximately equal to theta. So can we find tan theta from here, from this figure? Tan theta, what is tan theta? Opposite by, what's tan theta? Opposite by adjacent. Am I right? So this is opposite, this is theta, so this is opposite by adjacent. Okay, or this, anything. So opposite by adjacent, so b by d. Here I told you that tan theta is approximately equal to theta only because the value of theta is very small. So I can write it as theta is equal to b by d. Am I right? I can write it like this. So this is how you can measure d, right? b by theta. You can measure d, that is the longest distance, the large distance from the point to the star can be measured. As both of them are similar, any thing can be measured. So d is equal to b by theta. So if you consider this to be alpha, okay, so this we are doing it just for sake, and then if this is a planet, okay, this is Earth, let us consider this to be Earth, and we are taking two points on the opposite axis of the planet connected to there. So if you take it to be alpha, then it will be the same thing, you know the distance. Okay, so you have to, the aim of the first thing which we did was to find the distance. So we have found out the distance. So with that distance we will be finding out the size of the planet or size of the star which we are aiming for. Okay, so first of all, this thing is what we did first. That is, the aim of the first thing is to find out d. Okay, that is the distance between here to here. That is what is the aim of the first project. Now the second one, what is that? We are doing this with alpha, and then you have d. Am I right? You have d with you. So alpha is equal to same thing, tan alpha. So tan alpha is equal to b by d. Okay, tan alpha is equal to b by d. So alpha is equal to b by d, and if you want to calculate, so this is not going to be b. As this is Earth, I want to find its diameter. Then you can change it into d. Okay, I want to find its diameter. Then this also gets changed as d. Okay, so this is how you find the diameter of planets. Okay, so parallax method can be used to find the very large distance from the Earth to the star, and also the diameter of the planets. So this is what is the case with parallax method. Now the next thing, now we have learned very large, and now let's go to very small. I told you that we will be learning about the two extremes. So if we go to very small, then it will be apt to say that we will be measuring the distances of atoms and nuclei. Am I right? So we are getting deeper into what is inside the atoms and nuclei. So you can't use a screw gauge or a vernier caliper. You can't think that, because screw gauge is just used for measuring the thickness of a wire or something, and it can't be done with an atom or a nuclei. Okay, so that's not possible. Also at the same time, microscopes also can't be used because there are also a lot of limitations. So what can we do? There is a peculiar indirect method to calculate the size of a molecule which we will be learning here. Okay, so that is oleic acid molecule. Oleic acid molecule, it's a soapy liquid. It's a soapy liquid. Okay, so it's oleic acid, and it's a soapy liquid, and its size is approximately 10 power minus 9. Okay, what's its size? It's approximately 10 power minus 9, and we are going to determine this. How we are going to do that? Let us see. So first of all, we must form a monolayer of oleic acid on water. What do you mean by mono? One. So one layer of oleic acid I am going to form on water. That's my first aim. So what am I going to do? First I am going to mix 1 centimeter cube. Okay, I am going to mix 1 centimeter cube of oleic acid with alcohol. What am I going to do? I am taking just 1 centimeter cube of folic acid and I am putting it into alcohol. Okay, that's the first step. Now you will be left out with a 20 centimeter cube solution. You will be left out with a 20 centimeter cube solution. From that solution, you are picking up 1 centimeter cube. Okay, from that solution, you are picking up 1 centimeter cube and you are again adding it into alcohol. And you are again adding it into alcohol. So now can you predict the concentration of oleic acid in the solution? First we are adding 1 centimeter cube to alcohol and we are getting 20 centimeter cube of solution, and once again we are adding 1 centimeter cube of that solution to alcohol. So the concentration of oleic acid will be 1 by 20 into 20. Am I right? So this will be the concentration of oleic acid. 1 by 20 into 20 will be the concentration of oleic acid. So now after doing this is what I have done, and I have taken just this kind of a solution. Okay. So now next what I am going to do is I am going to have a surface of water. Okay, I am having surface of water and I am adding lycopodium powder. Lycopodium powder. So what am I adding? Lycopodium powder is what I am adding to the water. Okay, so I am adding lycopodium powder, and then I am adding 1 drop. Okay, I am adding 1 drop of this solution. Okay, 1 drop of the solution which we got by mixing oleic acid and alcohol at last. So I am adding just 1 drop. What will happen? Actually, why did we choose to measure the size of oleic acid? What is the speciality with oleic acid? While we have a lot of other molecules, the only thing is that it spreads very wider and faster in water. Okay, so oleic acid we have chosen to do this experiment only because it spreads wider and faster in water. So come back. So if I put 1 drop here, what will happen? It will just emerge and emerge and emerge, and it will spread to a larger area. So it will be spreading to a larger area, and it will also develop a thickness of T. Am I right? And it will also occupy a volume of V. So if I am adding n drops, if I am adding n drops of the solution to the water, if I am adding n drops, what will be the volume? It will be NV centimeter cube. Am I right? And I told you that the concentration of oleic acid is 1 by 20 into 20 in that final solution. First 1 centimeter cube plus alcohol gives you 20, and from that you are taking 1 and once again adding it to alcohol and you are getting a solution, and in that solution the concentration of oleic acid is 1 by 20 into 20 centimeter cube. Okay, so you can make it as the volume of oleic acid. The volume of oleic acid here is, what is that? NV into 1 by 20 into 20 centimeter cube. So this is the volume of the oleic acid, NV into 1 by 20 into 20 centimeter cube. But now what's our plan? Our plan is find out the thickness. So now we know that I told you that in the water surface I added only 1 drop and it will be increasing in the area, and we can find the diameter of this, we can find the diameter of this increasing, or we can widening film. We can find the diameter of this widening film, and hence we can find the area. We can find the area of the film. So if we take that into account, so we'll find out the area and let that area be A, just A. Okay, it's just A. So now the formula for thickness, what is that? Volume by area. So the formula for thickness is volume by area. So here volume we have NV divided by 20 into 20, and then we have area, that is A. So this will be the thickness of the oleic acid solution, and hence the size of the molecule of oleic acid solution only if a mono-layered oleic acid solution is present in water. That is, only one layer of oleic acid must be present in water. Okay, so this will be the thickness and this will be the size of the molecule. Okay, that's it for today. I'll be meeting you in the next video with the second part of this lesson. Stay tuned to all my videos, subscribe to my channel, like and share this video to all your friends. Thank you.